The COMEX just moved 3.8 million ounces of silver 2 days before a major delivery deadline. No new silver came in, nothing changed. They just moved it from one column to another on a spreadsheet, and they did it right before the clock ran out. And that's what I want to talk about today. So on April 28th, 2 days before the May futures deadline, two of the biggest silver vault operators reclassified about 3.8 million ounces of silver the same day, right before the clock ran out. Now, to understand why that matters, you need to know one thing about how the COMEX works. Silver in the warehouses sits in two categories. Eligible, that silver is stored in an approved COMEX vault, but the owner hasn't made it available for delivery. They're just using that warehouse as storage. And registered. That's the only silver that can be actually delivered against a futures contract. It has a warrant on it. Basically, an official tag saying that this metal is ready to go right now. But here's the problem. When people quote COMEX inventory numbers, they usually throw out the total. Eligible plus registered combined. That number sounds big and comfortable, but eligible silver isn't deliverable. The only number that actually matters is registered. And right now, registered silver is sitting at about 77 to 80 million ounces against 134 million ounces worth of open May contracts. That gives you a coverage ratio of 13 to 14%. Below 15% is where analysts say the market is in stress territory. We're sitting below that line for 6 straight months now. Really quick, guys, hit the subscribe, drop a like if you're finding this useful, and now let's get back to it. Here's why the timing of this reclassification is the whole story. April 30th was first notice day for the May silver futures. That's the day when contract holders have to decide, do you want to roll your contract to July, or do you want to stand for physical delivery? The COMEX moved 3.8 million ounces from eligible to registered on the 28th, 2 days before that deadline. That's not a coincidence. That's the COMEX looking at the registered inventory and looking at the delivery demand coming in on April 30th and moving the metals from the eligible pile to the registered pile to make that number look better before the deadline. The total amount of silver in those warehouses didn't change, and not 1 ounce of new silver came in. They just reclassified what they already had. It's the same trick a central bank pulls when it prints money. The underlying problem doesn't go away. You just create the appearance of having more to work with. The Fed prints dollars when the system needs liquidity. The COMEX reclassifies eligible to registered when delivery pressure builds. Both are kicking down the can down the road. Both work until they don't. So, what does this all actually mean? Is the COMEX about to default? Probably not tomorrow. The exchange has a lot of tools to avoid an outright default. They can reclassify eligible metals, just like we saw. They can raise margins to force people out of positions, and they can push people to roll contracts forward. And in the worst case, they can cash settle, meaning they just pay you dollars instead of handing over metal. But here's what this pattern is telling you over time. Registered inventory Registered inventory is down over 80% from its 2021 peak. The coverage ratio has now been below the stress threshold for 6 straight months. They just had to do an emergency reclassification 2 days before a major delivery deadline. And the 2026 silver deficit is projected at 46 million ounces, the sixth consecutive year of deficit. The paper market is being held together by accounting tricks, and that's not a conspiracy theory. That's what we literally just watched happen on the 28th with the documented CME warehouse data. 3.8 million ounces moved from one column to another the day before a delivery deadline. That's not new supply, that's just a creative bookkeeping trick. And here's a layer to this that I don't hear many people talk about. A big part of why the COMEX is under this kind of pressure right now is the refinery situation. When silver was running above 80, 90, and $100 an ounce earlier this year, coin shops were buying every piece of silver they could. Old silverware, constitutional silver, 10-ounce bars, and all of it gets put in a barrel and gets shipped to refineries to be melted down into 1,000-ounce bars that are eventually sent to the COMEX and used for delivery. Those refineries got absolutely swamped and are still backed up to today trying to process all that silver that got pushed back into the system. So while the paper market is showing the stress in the coverage ratio and the registered inventory, part of the reason is that physical silver is still sitting in refinery queues waiting to be processed into a form the COMEX can actually use. The metal exists, but it's just stuck in the pipeline. But that's cold comfort if you're a futures contract holder on first notice day. And the registered inventory sitting in the warehouse right now doesn't even cover your position. The pipeline doesn't help you today. So, what does any of this really mean for us physical stackers at home? Well, a few things. First, every ounce you hold is an ounce that isn't in the system. It's not eligible inventory sitting in a COMEX warehouse waiting to be reclassified. It's not paper promises, it's real metal in your possession that no accounting trick can move around. That matters more than most people realize. Secondly, what we're watching with these reclassifications and this coverage ratio pressure is the paper market slowly losing its ability to credibly represent the physical market. When the COMEX has to do emergency bookkeeping moves 2 days before a delivery deadline, that's not a system operating from a position of strength. And as Asia builds its own pricing infrastructure and more physical buyers demand real metal, that pressure only grows. And lastly, the deficit story is real and it's accelerating. 762 million ounces drawn from above ground stocks across 5 consecutive deficit years, and the sixth year deficit of 46 million ounces projected for this year of 26. Refineries are backed up, and coverage ratio at 13% for 6 straight months now. The physical reality and the paper price are telling two different stories right now, and I know which one I'm betting on. So to wrap it up, the 3.8 million ounces reclassified from eligible to registered 2 days before the first notice day. The same silver, different columns. Ratio coverage at 13 for the 6th month. So that's the COMEX situation right now. 3.8 million ounces moved from one column to another 2 days before the deadline. Not new silver coming in, but the same silver, just reclassified. Coverage ratio is sitting at 13% for the 6th straight month, and 762 million ounces gone from above ground stock since 21. The paper market is being held together by accounting tricks and smoke and mirrors, and the physical reality under it keeps getting tighter and tighter. Your stack sitting at home is the only thing in this whole equation that can't be reclassified. Drop in the comments what you think is going to happen next. Does this keep getting kicked down the road, or does something eventually break? I want to know. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one.